Today I'll be dropping my theories on what Lilia's vision might mean and what may have happened in her past. I should preface this by saying, though, I have no idea what's going to happen in this TV show, but I will say at this point in time, we know basically nothing about the witches aside from the few details we've been able to gain on the way. So let's get into it. So at around the 21-minute mark, the witches have already consumed the aloe poison in the form of wine, and there's 3 symptoms to the aloe poison. As you guys have told me, it's not Edelweiss, but the first is the distortion. We saw that when the witches drank the wine, and shortly after, their faces started to become distorted. They had massive lips, large cheeks. It looked like the worst work in the world. The second symptom of the aloe poison is delirium. There might have been a third one after that, but the fourth one, or the ultimate one, is death. So they progressively get worse. And at this point, the witches have already experienced that distortion, and now they're starting to trip out and have visions. And this is where things kind of go left, and this is where the episode takes a very dark turn. So as Agatha and Lilia are walking through the house trying to find a supplement for age-old cryptoplankton, Lilia notices that there's somebody in the hallway. This catches her attention, and as she looks closer, she realizes that this is somebody that she recognizes, at least from some point in the past. Now, this is obvious due to the dress, but this person appears to be from some Tudor-esque time period, right? Now, there's a portion in which the girl says, "Do you want to see to Lilia?" in another language, and Lilia proceeds to follow the girl. Now, I should also add that as Lilia has deviated from the original trip to find this plastic supplement or this cryptoplankton supplement, that the hallway that she's walking down starts to look like it's covered in vines. It looks very dated, and the girl she's following dips around a corner, and that's when we are all given the surprise of the TV show. And at this point, as Lilia rounds the corner, she sees this sitting at a table in front of her. She's terrified. Whatever this is, whoever this is obviously quite breathtaking, and there's a moment where you can kind of wonder if Lilia knew not only the girl, but the woman in front of her as well. But behind the woman, which you can't see pictured here, is a figure covered in all black who looks like Death himself. This obviously startles Lilia. She manages to back out of the room and down to the hallway, and this is where she starts yelling something in another language. Now, to me, initially it sounded like French. It sounded like mort, tout est mort, something like that. Now, my French is imperfect. It's been years since I've taken it, but I don't think that was right because the captions say dead, they're all dead, and the version that she used in that sentence was not the plural form for the French term. So we go on to Google, and this is where we find out that Lilia is Sicilian, right? She's Italian, which makes more sense as to why I didn't understand the tense initially, because it wasn't French at all. It was Italian. Now, this leads me down my rabbit hole. So what I'm guessing is that during her 400-year-old life, assuming that she is actually 400 years old and not older or younger, and we get this in episode 1 where Agatha is going to her shop and she's like, you can't be any younger than 410 to 415, something like that. So it's here that tells me that it's very possible that at some point in her life, her very long life, Lilia, who's originally from Sicily, Italy, presumably, had migrated to the States at some point. But in doing some additional reading on her comic book character, it said that Lilia was the head of a coven, right? Now, I don't know if we'll actually see this play out. I never, ever, ever, it's a cardinal rule of mine at this point, I never expect comic book or book adaptations to be the same as what we see on screen. So anyways, what this tells me is, at one point during Lilia's life, she lived in Italy. She may have been the head of a coven. Not only this, based on the outfits of the people we were seeing around her, she was also possibly royalty as well. And so her coven may have consisted of a lot of other upper class, royal, aristocratic witches, as played out in her vision here, and something happened to them. On an aside, I did want to throw in my shameless plug here. 10 points to you if you can tell me which TV show this is from. But again, I'm using this as terrible evidence, but evidence nonetheless that Lilia at one point may have been royalty, and that whatever happened, she couldn't save the people that she might have been in charge of or leading, etc. So that was obviously devastating. But anyways, now we also know that Lilia is a fortune teller and a divination witch. And you can see here in this promo that she's holding a card, and that card is the Tower, which I talk about in another video. But we know Lilia has these gifts of seeing the future, foretelling, etc. It's very possible that while she was the leader of this coven, she had tried to warn them of some danger, or she had seen in the future that there would be danger coming to them. And at the end, for whatever reason, the coven was executed. Now, I should state here that when Lilia was in Italy, it would have been the height of the Holy Roman Empire. So religious fanaticism abounds. And there's also something that I want to point out too in during my research. Now, I also mentioned that Lilia's vision had this very scary being that was standing behind the lady sitting at the table. And this looks like death itself. Now, this could be an axeman or an executioner, somebody who would have executed these witches had they been caught and tried for heresy, which was common, or it could be the personification of death itself. But as I started to do the damn research, I realized that this thing here looks very similar to this. Now, of course, this is not the most helpful thing, but they look very similar to those things that were chasing Agatha in episodes 1 and 2. I don't know what they are. Some speculate that this could be the Salem 7, but in this universe, it could be quite different, right? These things might be primordial beings themselves, and they make sure which law is enforced. And it's very possible that Lily at one point in her long life violated one of these coven's rules, and that's why she had to escape anyways. Now they have a new target, obviously, and it's Agatha, but we don't really know what their role is quite yet. And until we get that information, it's going to be up in the air. But it's very possible that these guys here had played a role in the death of Lilias Coven, and it wasn't religious fanaticism at play. But what we do know for sure is that whatever happened to these women, whether or not Lilia was directly involved with them or she wasn't, she could not save them, and she seemed to be traumatized at the fact that they were all dead, right? Her finding out about this in her vision was obviously alarming to her. But those are my thoughts on this. I do have a question for you guys, so if you don't mind answering it, I would appreciate it. But do you guys think that the things chasing Agatha are the same things or the same thing that showed up in Lilia's vision? If so, just drop it in the comments. If not, tell me why, and I will see you guys in my next video.